Hello, I'm Jack, and I'm back for the final review for Best Picture Month. Well, the Oscars have come and gone, and there have been some interesting results. So even though we're in the month of March now, I might as well finish the series up with at least one more review. Therefore, I'm going to review not only my favorite Best Picture winner of all time, but possibly my favorite film of all time, Schindler's List. Directed by Steven Spielberg and winning 6 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director, the film is based on a true story about a man named Oskar Schindler who saved the lives of Jews during the Holocaust. Steven Spielberg is my favorite filmmaker of all time, and for many years his films had been nominated for Best Picture and Best Director but never won. But in 1993, this film came out, and the very next year, during the Oscars, it took home those 2 awards and more. This movie is unlike any other. Everything is done to perfection. The acting, the script, the music, the cinematography, and most of all, the emotion. This is easily the most emotionally powerful film that I have ever seen in my life. This movie perfectly captures the horrors of the Holocaust. So where do I even begin with this movie? Well, I guess I could start by saying that the characters are some of my favorites. Now, they were real people, so that might be part of the reason why they feel so realistic as characters. The actors do a fantastic job playing these characters. Liam Neeson in an Oscar-nominated role as Oskar Schindler is great, playing a man who only cares about business, at the beginning of the film at least. But as the movie goes on, he begins to see all the terrible things that the Nazis are doing to the Jews. Then he starts making Jews his workers. But while he was first doing it for business reasons, he starts to realize that the Jews are seeing him as a hero. And as the movie goes on, he becomes a hero. Eventually, he pays his money in order to get the Jews out of the concentration camp and save their lives. The journey that his character goes on is truly a powerful one. His relationship with the character of Ishak Stern, played by Ben Kingsley, is also very well done. Once again, the relationship starts out very business heavy, but as the film goes on, a friendship begins to form between the two of them. But let's talk about the best character in this movie, Amon Gert, played amazingly by Ralph Fiennes. To this day, he remains my favorite villain character of all time. He's not one of those cool, awesome villains like Darth Vader. No, he truly is a villain. A sick, twisted, cold-hearted bastard who you would just love to shoot in the face. When he is first introduced, a Jewish woman tells him that they have to take down the foundation that they are building in the concentration camp, or else it will collapse. He then orders her shot and killed, and right after, tells his men to do just what she said. Another great scene is when he shoots some of the Jews in the concentration camp from his balcony, showing that he thinks absolutely nothing of them. Possibly his best scene is when he takes a Jewish worker outside to be shot and killed because he didn't make enough hinges for him. His gun constantly jams in one of the most suspenseful scenes I've ever seen in any movie. The worker then explains that the reason why he didn't have that many hinges made was because the machines were being recalibrated and he had spent most of his time shoveling coal. But Goat doesn't care and still tries to kill him. Oskar Schindler talks to him and tries to make him stop killing Jews. He tells him that true power is having every single justification to kill someone and not killing them. At first it works. Goat seems merciful, constantly saying to them, "I pardon you." But then in another fantastic scene, he says those exact words to himself in the mirror, then turns to the camera with a look that says something is wrong. He then goes back to killing Jews off. He's also attracted to this one Jewish girl named Helen Hirsch. In one scene, she explains to Oskar Schindler her experiences with this man. This is another fantastic scene. I know I keep on saying that, but pretty much every single scene in this film is great. She tells him about the way that he beats her, and how that he murders people who did absolutely nothing wrong. Not only is her performance excellent, but the camera work is great. The shot starts up on the ceiling and then moves down slowly towards her. The lighting is also very dark, which is something that I will get to later. Eventually Gert finds her in the cellar, and in yet another great scene, he talks to her about almost whether or not a relationship between them would have worked out had she not been Jewish. What's great about this scene is that there's absolutely no dialogue from her. It's just Gert talking to her and then responding, despite her not saying anything. as if he's having a conversation with himself. You could hear the calm, beautiful, relaxing music playing in the background of the scene, giving it an even more scary edge as the music builds up, and you think that he's gonna kiss her, but then he stops right when the music stops and beats her. Ralph Fiennes was also nominated for an Oscar for this role, and in my opinion, he should have won. He lost to Tommy Lee Jones from The Fugitive, and while Tommy Lee Jones did a great job in that film, this role was better in my opinion. Watching him play this character was a seminal moment for me. I had never seen a villain character this well executed. At the end of the movie, when you see his character hung, you feel so good about it. The rest of the actors are great too. The actors that play the Jews do a great job of capturing the fear that they're going through. Speaking of which, this movie does a great job of showing you the true terror of the Holocaust. Some have thought that Steven Spielberg has been a little bit too lighthearted with some of his films, but here he went full on dark and mature. The film starts off not quite so intense, but builds as it goes. The first half of the film shows the Jews being kicked out of their homes and forced into the ghetto. Then later in the film, some of the Jews are talking in the streets, thinking to themselves, well, there's no way it could get worse than this. And then Amon Goat arrives, and the ghetto sequence begins. This is where it gets really intense. The Nazis start raiding the Jews' houses and rounding them up. One Jewish boy attempts to flee and he ends up being shot dead. A husband is trying to help his wounded wife, only to have her be shot by an officer. Some of the Jews attempt to flee through the sewer, only to be shot as well. Oskar Schindler watches this all from a hilltop, and then he sees the iconic image of the little girl in the red coat, who seems to be able to avoid all of the danger. However, later in the film, hundreds of the Jews' bodies are incinerated, and he sees that same little girl dead in the wheelbarrow, as if to say, it looks like all hope is lost now. And then he makes his decision to save the Jews. However, the train with the women ends up going to the famous Nazi camp of Auschwitz, leading to the shower scene, one of the darkest and most scary scenes ever. The doors close, and the Jews are trapped inside. The lights darken, and they start screaming. The suspense starts building, only to have them showered with water. And then you're like, Another great thing about this movie is the cinematography. The majority of the film is shot in black and white, and I say the majority because there are still parts that are in color. The opening scene, for example, as each shot goes by, the color slowly starts to drain, until finally we see a candle start to burn out, only to have all of the color fade from the film. Then there's the little girl in the red coat as a symbol of hope, and then the ending of the film, which shows the surviving Schindler Jews. The black and white lighting is excellent. As I said before, there is a lot of dark lighting in this movie, which works perfectly with the subject matter, as this is a very dark time. Scenes like the Auschwitz sequence are shot beautifully in this very dark, dystopian kind of way. The costumes and sets are excellent, capturing the time period perfectly. The award-winning music by John Williams in this movie is also terrific. The main theme to this movie is one of the most beautiful movie themes to listen to. However, there really isn't that much music in the movie, but it works very well. It helps give the film a very realistic feel. It helps engross you into the movie. There's also a great use of handheld camera work, once again making you really feel like you're there. The emotion of this movie hits every single beat. Not one is missed. And the heart of this movie is where it succeeds the most. This is one of the most important films to see ever. It teaches great lessons about valuing life, and how important helping people is, as well as how much one person can really do. The ending to this movie is where it is at its greatest. Liam Neeson gives a great performance, as he becomes so depressed about the fact that he could have saved more Jews. But we see the Jews that he did save as they walk freely across the plains, with a beautiful choir playing over. We see the execution of Amon Goat, and the dystopian black and white imagery eventually becomes bright, positive color, as we see all the Jews place their rock on top of the grave of Oskar Schindler. This movie is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. I cannot give enough praise to this movie. This is everything a movie should be. As my favorite Best Picture winner of all time, and possibly even my favorite film of all time, I of course give Schindler's List 10 out of 10. So that's it for Best Picture month. I will be back with more reviews soon. I'm Jack, and I'll see you later.